You want this podium?
Yeah, no, that's fine. So, yes, the laws can always change. God willing, the courts will strike this down. I've told people this is basically 3 unconstitutional bills in a trench coat. Just a cursory glance, I believe it violates the 14th Amendment, the First Amendment, and the Full Faith and Protection Clause of the U.S. Constitution. The downside is you can't trust the judicial system, especially when they've been trying to just Shanghai partisan judges for the better part of 10 years. But we'll see how the legal process shakes out. Now, if there's a legal challenge, it is possible that it will go ahead and pause the law. That is a possibility if the right amount of legal challenges happen. But you're right, ultimately the goal has to be to replace this through the legislative and political process. Because what can happen, even let's just say hypothetically 2 years from now, the Iowa Supreme Court looks at this bill and be like, oh dear God, this is absolutely unconstitutional. The downside is that doesn't take it out of Iowa code. It's still an Iowa code, it's just unenforceable because there's not a severability clause that was built into it to strike it out of Iowa code. So ultimately what you would want in the worst case scenario is, say they strike it down, 4 years later someone comes up with another challenge, like you get a Brianna Byrd, worst attorney general, to try to get it. Then they may, if it's still there, it becomes basically zombie code. So ultimately you want to be able to replace it politically. Yes, that can be done. So first thing you're going to want to do in that process is get a new governor. Flipping the House and the Senate is also a must-do. That will take longer, but ideally, coming out of the 26th election, you want to have a new governor, and you want to have the majorities in both the House and the Senate so that they can sustain the governor's veto, because they'll keep doing terrible bills because they're all written by the Heritage Foundation, and I find it ironic because a lot of these bills that come to the House floor, that you get the defenders up there because you can ask them questions. Be like, hey, will you yield to some questions? A lot of times they don't even yield to questions. They just sit there and be like, do you even know what's in your own bill? They don't write it. It's written by out-of-state think tanks, and they just run it once they get it. So they'll keep doing that if they have control of the House and the Senate, but if you have a governor and we have the majorities, then we can veto these terrible bills and work towards taking the Iowa legislature back so we can just get rid of this anti-LGBTQ thing. One last thing I'll say, and talk to anybody who says it, just remind Iowans that every single anti-LGBTQ bill is an admission of failure. It is a failure to live up to the promises of liberty and justice at all, and it is a failure to improve your lives in any meaningful way. So